Good afternoon. We get started here. A few more people will be coming in, I think. I'm Bill Hoagland, a Senior Vice President at the Bipartisan Policy Center, and I have the pleasure of working with our evidence-based policy team and on the report that we're issuing this afternoon. I'm a little surprised, quite frankly, to be honest with you, that we even have this kind of a turnout for something that tends to be a little wonky, a little bit evidence-based, not going forward. But it is the mission of the Bipartisan Policy Center to bring together the best ideas from all quarters and for addressing the challenges that policymakers face. But it's also to do that with a very healthy dose of rigorous analysis, which is the basis, the fundamentals of evidence-based decision-making. I spent many years up here, beginning at the Congressional Budget Office and almost a quarter of a century over here in the Senate side as a staffer, and I always believed that I gave the best evidence to my bosses to make the decisions that they made, but I also learned very quickly that sometimes my best efforts to have them follow the evidence didn't necessarily result in the vote that I thought they should have taken. That happened many times. So we all know there are many, many factors that are involved in the decision-making, including sometimes just gut feeling about an issue. Nonetheless, having said that, having solid evidence, starting with evidence in the decision process is essential from my perspective in the deliberative process. And this is the purpose of our whole discussion, is to increase the quality and the effort of changing the culture of evidence-based policymaking in the Congress going forward. It was none other than James Madison, I understand, who argued that legislators should, and I quote, rest their arguments on facts instead of assertions and conjectures. So in this day and age of sometimes alternative facts, it is good to reflect on Mr. Madison's admonishments to all legislators, including presidents. Speaker Ryan, when he was chairman of the House Budget Committee and as Speaker, and has he continued since, he's continued to promote evidence policy making and along with Senator Patty Murray. Both were instrumental in the establishment of this Commission on Evidence-Based Policy that was issued, and they issued their report last September, I believe it was. Speaker Ryan has been a great champion of evidence-based policymaking, and we look forward to his continued leadership on the topic moving forward during the remainder of his time in office, as we believe every member of Congress should be a champion of evidence. So we're also excited to, for some of you who know this, that we were able to bring into the Bipartisan Policy Center the Commission, carry on the Commission's work last September with the leadership of our Nick Hart, who was the Commission's policy director, along with Sandy Davis and Tim Shaw and Daniel Martins. You'll hear from some of them later here this afternoon. So without further delay, let me turn this over to our newest board member of the Bipartisan Policy Center, the Honorable Michael Steele, someone who knows firsthand the issues of balancing evidence and good policy decisions from his years of public service. So, Michael, I don't think we have his bio. He doesn't really need an introduction, but former Lieutenant Governor of Maryland, former Chairman of the Republican National Committee, political analyst with MSNBC, co-host of Steele and Unger's show on Sirius Radio, and just all-around good guy. Mr. Chairman.
Well, I haven't been called a good guy in a long time, so this is kind of nice. I like it. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it. Well, welcome, everybody. I'm so glad you could be here. And, Bill, thank you for sort of laying the groundwork for today's discussion. Certainly, as a new member of the board for the BPC, it's a real pleasure and honor to be able to make this particular introduction as we begin, I think, what is an important and necessary conversation. I've learned very quickly that bipartisanship is not a dirty word, nor is evidence. And so I think if we start from that position, we can begin to engage proactively in a way that really transforms not just the political landscape, but the policy-making opportunities that legislators have. And it goes to the core of what the BPC believes, and it believes strongly that the clash of differing viewpoints, when accompanied by rigorous, respectful debate supported with evidence-based research, can better inform the policymakers in making the kinds of decisions they're making and the difficulty of those decisions on a day-to-day basis. But as the BPC staff also knows, and certainly as I've experienced firsthand in the various roles that I've played, that democratic debate is never a strict weighing of evidence. In the political world, emotion takes over. It has a certain appeal of its own. Certainly, the cause and the country sometimes clash and collide, but they are an important part of that decision-making process as anything else. However, the swiftness of some today to proudly defy evidence in that process is troubling, and it should be, because it undermines our capacity to reach a bipartisan consensus. In this environment, warring political tribes determine their own facts, or some might say their alternative facts. But the truth is, as you live in both the political and the policy world, and certainly I have as a lieutenant governor of my state of Maryland and as a national party chairman, the truth is that both good policy and good politics can work together to create the kind of programs and opportunities for communities. When you're productive, when you're positive, and when you provide evidence and information, the outcome for folks, certainly for those who's on the receiving end of the benefit, as they say, can be a very good thing. Taxpayers also get the biggest bang for their buck. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right? Service to the people and the communities in which we live. And to do that requires us to step up our game and bring the best to the table in how we look at solving those problems. And while it is often stated one has a right to their own views, it is also well stated and well known you do not have the right to your own facts. You just can't make stuff up, all right, to prove your point. You just can't go out there and say whatever you think you feel about an issue. BPC's report released today focuses on Congress and possible ways it can build a culture of evidence to inform policymaking. Now, I know many in Congress support the expanded use of evidence instead of anecdote to craft public policy. And one of the best examples is the joint effort of Speaker Paul Ryan and Senator Patty Murray to advance the work of the Commission on Evidence-Based Policymaking that made its recommendations last fall. BPC is continuing the Commission's work by bringing the Commission in-house and through its own evidence-based policy-making initiative. Also, the recently enacted Bipartisan Budget Act of 2018 includes several provisions for using evidence to better implement federal programs and to provide funding for gathering and coordinating evidence to inform decision-making. But building a culture of evidence in Congress will require a great deal of work. And that's the purpose of the BPC report being released today. So it is my pleasure to now turn this over to Sandy Davis, lead author on the report, and Tim Shaw, to highlight some of the ways Congress could build that culture of evidence and to equip itself in the data-driven world of the 21st century to make smart policy for the future, and also to make a few smart policymakers. Thank you very much. Come on up, guys.